Hello, everyone, and welcome to Prep for the Night, the podcast where we keep it sexy, smart, and stigma free. I'm your host, Aaron Wallace. And in this episode, we're diving into one of the most important and often overlooked parts of any hookup, relationship, or friends with benefits communication. That's right, we're talking about those honest, sometimes awkward, but totally necessary conversations around sexual health, protection, and boundaries. And today I am joined by Shelby and Amber, two of my wonderful co-team members, excuse me, and we are going to dive into some personal stories, tips, and truths about how to navigate those moments where it's time to hit pause and check in before things heat up. So, whether you're a seasoned pro or still figuring it out, this episode is all about real talk and we are here for you. So, before we dive in, we like to start each episode with an icebreaker. And today's icebreaker is: would you rather have the STI talk during the first date or right before things get physical? Who wants to go first?
I go.
I will go first. No, Shelby, go. Yeah, you go.
Me, my preference. If they expect us to do something on their first time, I know your results. Like I want to see paperwork. I'm gonna show you my paperwork. I want to see yours also.
Okay. Okay. Amber?
Yeah, I'm more of like a very, very upfront. Like, don't let me get into no situations, corners, tight places. Let's just knock this out of the way ASAP, as opposed to in the moment where I could like rationalize in my mind some, half truth, like, oh, well.
I will say, back in my younger days, or right as I was getting started being
Mhm.
sexual, I probably wouldn't have asked because I would have been too nervous. And I would have been very much, will this person think I and I'm putting quotes, have something,
Right.
and then kill the mood or whatever. So, but nowadays, I'd be like, let's talk this through. When's the last time you got
Yeah.
tested? Are you on prep? You
So
got,
yeah, paperwork real
all
fast.
the good, all
There's a lot on the
show me.
line. Like, you gotta measure twice, cut once.
Mhm. And if you're on Q Care, I know they show your results right away. So, and if I know you're on Q Care, I know with EAC, I know you're getting tested every 3 months. I know,
Mhm.
so I know we are good to go to have all the fun and not worry.
Yes.
Right.
All right. So now that we kind of broken the ice and are a little more comfortable, let's start the conversation. So, growing up, what is something you wish someone would have told you about sexual communication?
I mean, anything. I feel like there was mostly fear mongering. It was mostly don't, period. Like, no explanations, no excuses. It was just like, don't do it. You'll get pregnant and you'll die. It was just very threatening and scary, but there was no conversation about sexual communication. The communication you were supposed to have was no.
Everything I learned was from television.
Yeah.
Like, and it's not the healthiest place to learn it because
Yeah.
they romanticize it. Or, well, when I was growing up
Yeah.
too,
They just lie. Like, it's not
the
even
gay
romantic, it's just
characters
lying.
always, and then the gay characters, it was always, let's tell these HIV positive, stories that weren't showing them living a healthy life. It was showing them, deal with all the stigma and everything that
Mhm.
comes along with it.
Right, just like a series of
So,
worst case scenarios. Like,
Dealing with this new generation, and for me, from experience, it's hard for us to come out and just like say who we are and what we are and what we believe in. Because like we don't know this generation, we don't know who's going to judge us of as who we are. Like right now, in this
mhm,
situation, it's so many people judging us if it's for the company who we work for. So it's like
mhm,
our job is here, and what we talking about is to help people from stop that spreading. Help people understand what we here for.
mhm. So, I just wanna add to that, that y'all have a higher amount of surveillance. Like, y'all got more cameras out, y'all are recording more, y'all make videos more than even just millennials in, like, 2012 to 2016 or so. So I feel like that tracks what you're describing because y'all will get, like clowned publicly for a micro moment, for like half of a statement, and now it's viral. And you're like, I wasn't even talking about that, or like it's completely misinterpreted. And like, I wasn't in high school when it was like that. I did have some digital threat, like there were people sharing pics. We did have phones. We were texting, but it was Nokia brick phones. It was T9 texting under your desk. So like triple tapping a button to get to the third letter. Like it was not
Ooh,
the same situation
girl, I
Oh,
don't
that
miss
y'all
those
oh,
days.
have.
I had that phone.
Right, like, it wasn't the
Hey,
quickness that y'all have, so I did deal with a little bit of digital drama, but y'all have got it really amped up now, and so with all the social media, all the tracking, I've heard young folks talk about how they don't like to go out anymore because it's like, "I don't wanna be recorded dancing by strangers. I don't wanna see myself dancing and someone's made fun of me or something," and I'm like,
Oh,
"Dang, I didn't even think about that, I was never thinking about that." So that tracks, I feel, like,
see,
the anxiety about that.
that's so me living in Pablo. I used to be a party boy. I used to go out and kick it, and it's like now, since I've been living in Little Rock, July will make 2 years I've been living in Little Rock. I don't feel comfortable going out like that. I don't, cause I don't want to be me putting all over Facebook. Oh, look at what she'll be doing. No, it's none of that.
yeah. Well, I remember when I started working for EAC, this guy I had dated in the past was like, just messaged me out of the blue and was like, "Oh, hey, when did you find out?" I was like, "When did I find out what?" He assumed because I started working for EAC, which is a
Mhm.
HIV prevention or working with HIV
Right,
clients, that I must be HIV positive now.
right,
Because I was like, "Why is there such a stigma?" Just because you work some,
right.
I just want to make a difference in the community and help people.
Mhm.
And yes, I was just like, "Oh, no, I'm negative and
Like,
I'm
what
on
an odd
PrEP,"
thing to say.
but yeah, I didn't know how to respond because I was just like,
Mhm.
Well, from your experience, I can kind of speak on it because when we go do testing events, I always share my story with them to make them understand more comfortable where we coming from, why we here, and like what we expect. What we are needed to do to stop this. And I always tell my story. I've been exposed to HIV twice. Twice. First time I moved to Little Rock, I've been exposed, and this year I have been exposed. So it's like me telling my story to them. Like we had a event. I told them my story. They came in quick. They were like, "Yes, we want to. We want to get tested." And like for Little Rock, Arkansas, knowing it's like we are the HIV highest case right now, I prefer everybody in Little Rock to get tested just to be safe.
"All right, so how do we balance wanting to be spontaneous, but also being responsible when it comes to our sexual health?" Because when you think about it, it's not just the other person. We got to think about ourselves because we can't assume that other person is protected, gets tested. So how do we keep the being spontaneous, but also being responsible?
I'm gonna age myself. I wouldn't be at my okay. So I had a roaring 20s. I'm not in my 20s. You could not pay me to go back and be 20 anything.
Same,
I am
same.
not
Opposite.
leaving the house after 8 p.m. Like going out for me is like I do want to go out. Like I want the activity. I want all of that. I don't want to do it after 8 p.m. I don't want to do it after 8 p.m. I don't want to be driving in the middle of the night. What do you mean? I'm tired. I got stuff to do. So
That's
to
for the
say
young
that I
folks.
would not like for real, like I need to be down with my audiobook, like vitamins down. We need to be horizontal, no conversation, right? So with my current priorities, I no longer view my sex life as an opportunity for a ton of spontaneity. Like to be honest, when I was in my 20s, it was just like, whatever, like whatever. I'm out. It's 2 in the morning. I mean,
I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do
who's
this.
who's calling? But now that I got some years under me and I see the threat of death and like mortality is a little more present for me, I'm like, I can be spontaneous in other places in my life. I can book a class. I can climb a tree. There's a lot of things I could do over getting, accidentally traumatized, so I don't really I think about it if I'm close with someone, then I think about spontaneity. First I build a relationship and then it's like, okay, that's cool. That's different. But as far as like more casual encounters, it's not super enticing to me because the risk is so high. Like it's just so high. If I risk one of my child-free nights for you, I I'm gonna be so mad if it's disappointing.
My husband and I this weekend made soaps, learned how to make soaps and candles with a friend, and that was pretty
Yes.
spontaneous for
I
us, and I
said,
loved it.
I need some soap. I need some soap, but it has to be
Yes.
antibacterial because I have sensitive skin.
Like, that kind of yeah,
but
that
So,
is great.
good. Well, then let's turn it over to the younger person
Yes.
who's still in his early 20s.
We got our 20s, our
What do
resident
you
20
do?
something.
You're among friends. You're among
Yes.
friends. Share us
Yes.
how you are spontaneous yet responsible.
as a 24-year-old male, um, I really can't say much because I always jump for it. Like I'm jumping for six. I'm just like, that's how I am.
Jumping
And they
forward.
just me being honest, but it's like now me being exposed to HIV twice. Oh, it's boundaries. I want to see your lab results. I'm gonna show you my lab results also, because through the Q quiz that we go to through Q Care, we also get labs done every time they send a message. So I showed them my results, they showed me theirs, and it's like, I let them know how I am. But as far as like responsibility, it's time to wrap it up. Put a condom on. It's time to wrap it up.
We don't have time. The time is yeah, we
We
That
just
don't,
don't
we
have
don't
it.
have
that
time.
old
I hate
that
wasting
old
my
saying,
time.
"No glove, no love."
Nope.
Remember
It's
I
time to
remember
wrap
hearing
it up.
that all the time when I was young. No glove, no love.
Yeah.
But
Um,
it's crazy. It's like condoms. It's like me personally, I just don't like them.
I think that's every gay man.
Oh,
We
and a
don't
Okay.
great
like
deal
them.
of
No,
straight
no,
ones.
no,
Hey,
boy.
hey, hey, the common denominator is
I do not like them. I don't. I promise I don't.
no.
I remember thinking like I'm like, come on, it can't be that much of a difference. And then when you actually, I'm like, okay, kind of is,
I
and
mean,
I
I
hate
do.
that.
That's why I talk to people about prep. I was like, I just want to be honest. Most of the people that we are testing, it's like 0 to 50% condom use. Like, let's just be realistic. This part of the selling point of prep has to be that you can do this without condoms. People don't want to
I
say
might.
it or address it, and I'm like, look, I'm not going to beat around the bush. I'm not gonna be around the bush. If most of the people we're testing are saying like don't like them, not comfortable, won't use them, and especially as you get into like 40s and 50s, like the chances of somebody suddenly becoming a condom user after decades of active non-condom use, it's literally zero. I guess it's not scientifically zero, but prep, that's what I sell people on. I'm like, hey, even without a condom, you're at least protected from the HIV factor. Like I
Right.
can't account for
Well,
chlamydia or a baby, but
right now too, inflation, girl. Or theys, girls, boys, all of them.
girls.
Condoms are
No, I
expensive.
appreciate that 100%. Thank you.
Condoms are expensive.
And that's my other
Like
selling point.
when
That's my
I
other
walk
point.
by
I'm like, who
them,
gives
I'm
you
just
free condoms?
like,
Yeah.
when I walk by them in Walmart, I'm just like, damn.
Yeah. Imagine being like super active, multiple partners a week. Like you are not, it's like buying cigarettes at that point and don't have a cigarette problem.
and and you don't know what size someone. If you're in the hookup phase, you don't know what size you're going to run into.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Well, what do we do when someone doesn't want to talk about production or testing?
I'm gonna speak on this because from experience and from learning as I went through this training as a community health worker, they might turn you down and they might push you away because they don't want this and want that. But in reality, they are going to come back and ask for you to help them out and test them. So what I would do in that situation is, I'm gonna give them their space and let them figure out what they want to do. But when it's time for them to come back, I'm gonna give them my card number with my name and number on there, and I'm gonna talk to them like, "What's going on? Let's talk about this situation. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about that, so we can understand more what's going on with you, so we can try to help you out to to help you out to figure out what you need to do."
Well, and I think if someone doesn't want to talk about protection or testing, and they're just like, I don't want to talk, to me, that's kind of red flag.
Hmm.
So to protect myself, I'm going to have to be like, well, until
Right.
we discuss this. and have an
Yeah.
open and honest conversation, and I know you ain't lying because you're not being mean, you're protecting
Right, it's
your
not a
health.
moral judgment. It's just
Mhm.
objectively a concern, right? Like, I also don't want a staph infection, so I'm probably not gonna use certain bathrooms. Like,
Exactly.
come on, let's prevent some things. So, yeah, in a romantic situation, it's a no. It's like, "Okay, you can go on about your way then, because I'm not doing that. I'm not coddling anybody or, trying to coach you, but I'll refer you out, as a like, "Oh, this isn't gonna work out for me, but you should go see the people and get tested." As a worker, though,
As a community
um
health worker, we can't do that. We can they
no, he
they
was
can
talking about dating. Shelby, he's talking about dating.
dating.
Dating, yeah, if you're dating someone and they don't wanna talk about protection.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
we
Yeah.
ain't for the date. I'm letting you know we ain't for the date.
Right. That's why I was like, on that level, it's just like there are too many people available. I could just walk to a gas station if I was super concerned and desperate for this activity.
I was
Yeah.
gonna say, and
It's
if
gonna be
you're
a
on
no.
Grindr,
I guess it's
if
gonna be
one
a
person
no.
says no, just
Yeah.
go
And I have the
a
added
couple
benefit
miles
over
and be like,
y'all of being able to just
Well,
go sit in
let's
front
leave
of
it up to
Walmart
me
for a
and Aaron
second.
about the app situation. Let's do Amber after that. But as far as the dating of that situation, from experience, the relationship I had, he was down for it. But every time I made the appointment to go get tested for both of us, like to go
Mhm.
together, he always falls back out of it.
Mhm.
mm, red flag.
Yeah, and that's a red flag for me too as a health worker, just that part of my brain goes off as like, "Oh, you just like the attention." So, to keep my
Mhm,
attention, I have to perform caring about this thing that you keep talking about. So, if someone repeatedly is saying, I'm gonna do it," and they're not doing it, but they still hang out with you, spend time with you, or even have sex with you, it's giving manipulation and using. So, at that point, it would also be like "Hey, it seems like you need to go gather your oats, your loins, whatever. You need to get your affairs in order, figure this out because you cannot have sex with me."
How have you ever had a positive experience where someone brought up sexual health in a way that made you feel safe and respected? And what did they say?
Yes, because I've been in two poly relationships, and I feel like when there's a third involved, there's just additional conversations that have to be had. And so that, and then also kind of like experimenting in my 20s within the queer community, that also involved a lot of sexual communication. I feel like that for me, that was when I recognized consent being like
Mhm,
really coming on, like mid 2000s, like 2014 and later. Like consent was a big thing, and I feel like our community really took to that for a lot of reasons I think are obvious, like like so many of us experiencing sexual assault. So yeah, consent would be really important, would be a topic that really lands well. And so I feel like that's where I saw the best sexual communication. Having sex with straight men who were only having sex with women can't say that was happening a lot. And I also felt like an anxiety, like you were talking about, Aaron, like a nervousness of like, okay, if I ask this huge man about his status, like, is he gonna think I'm someone who's deplorable and nasty, but also
mm,
is he going to think I'm someone that no one's going to miss, and is he going to harm me, because he thinks that I know something about him, right? Like, am I accidentally poking one of his wounds? And so that
mhm.
conversation with straight men in my 20s, unfortunately, was not happening. I was not having that conversation. I was putting my life at risk. And so when I talk to straight women now, I'm like, listen, sister, it's not it. That's not it.
I had someone, and he didn't mean it to talk about protection or anything, but he did it in a fun way. I was like, oh, "Okay, yeah, you're fine, hubby." Like, he sent a spicy pic, but he had a condom on and said, "I'm ready to go." I was like, "Oh, well, he's protected and ready.
An
Okay,
implicit
let's
message.
do."
I like that. That's smooth. That's very
I mean,
smooth.
he didn't bring it up, or and I didn't ask, of course. But I was like, "Well, if he's willing to use a condom, then he cares about himself."
Mhm.
And he's, for sure thinking about those things. So it's
Right.
like, I was like, I'll give you a green flag there.
You get one green
Yeah,
flag.
I'll give you a one. Because one, I was like, okay, I see what you're doing. You're trying to turn me on, but also show me you're protected and ready to go.
Like, and you don't have to broach the topic, it's like
Yeah,
is a way
I didn't have to bring it up.
it's like an
I was,
understood thing. Yeah. I like that.
and it was great because this was one of those late night situations
Ooh,
where it's like,
I would like
Let's
to
just
talk
do
less.
this.
Yeah.
Oh, I do not miss those late night calls. Those, you up?
No, I'm at the age where I'm like, "Are you dead?
Obviously.
Is
No,
someone
I'm not up.
injured? Are you dead, bleeding, on fire? Don't come back at 8."
I've been in bed for 3 hours. No, I'm not up.
No, I'm so drowsy. Oh my god.
What about you, Shelby? Because again, I know we're not trying to pick on you for being younger, but you do
It's
have a
just very
different
different.
perspective than us. Because
Oh,
I would have never thought about that aspect of social media you brought up, where everyone's afraid of having their photo taken
Mhm.
or that. I would have never
Being
thought about
content,
that.
just being content for the endless
Yeah.
pipeline.
it's pretty hard for us out here because there's a lot of when we get ready to hook up with somebody, there's not a lot of protection going on at all. Then
Mm.
second, it's more of what's the word I'm looking for? Uh, it just slipped my mind. Come on, think. It's gonna come back to me, but as for me, has been like in the generation, it's there's really much as like I can receive a text right now. I'm telling you, it'll just be out of
Not
nowhere.
I'd be disgusted.
Like, whoa, like what this come from? Is like, so it's like it's hard for like this generation to understand more because we some of has not been taught anything. Like we just like we at this point, this new generation, we just go with the flow. Wherever it happened, that's how we see it in our head. It just happens.
Mm.
So it's like,
Well, that's why I'm very much. If I hear someone say something I know is incorrect, I want to correct them, not in a mean way and be like, "Oh,
Mhm.
you're wrong." Just like, "Oh, hey, actually, da 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 da." Because if you tell one person, that person may be like
Yes.
me, is like Hep C's
Yes.
curable. Let me go tell everyone I know.
And
that's
that's
how.
what I tell people, as a worker, particularly people who think that marriage is a form of prevention. Bless y'all's hearts. That is not a form of prevention. Okay.
They
Um,
they need to talk
but
to
that
some
crowd,
gay people.
especially, I like to wrap it up like you give a dog medicine. No shade. I'm not calling people dogs, but I like to hide it in, like, I just want this to become a household term. Prep. Just because you don't need it doesn't mean people, that's how I kind of get it to people who think that it's not for them. Like, okay, but you're about to hear about it. And I'm going to kind of wrap it up as like, now you have a call to action. Now you have to go run your mouth about it. Go tell that person I know needs to know what prep is. And that has kind of been my pipeline, especially down in the South where everyone like doesn't want to touch it. They're like, oh, I don't need that. I don't need that. I've never been involved in such activities. I'm like, you haven't had no sex?
I'm one to always ask questions if I don't know. Like I like to learn things, so if I don't know it, I will Google it. But I prefer to get like that ask a person the question that has lived the
Hmm.
experience. But it's kind of like when I first met someone who was non-binary. I was like, please excuse me for not knowing what this is, but what is non-binary?
Hmm.
And we had a little conversation. I was just like, oh, okay, cool. That's it.
Hmm. Yes.
So it was the same way with you equals you. Like when I first started, I was like, well, what does that mean? Like, I wanted to know more about. Like, I even researched it because I was like, really, if someone's undetectable, you can't pass it on. Like,
Hmm.
it was just mind blowing. I was like, why isn't this just
Yeah.
out there everywhere? Because this is something that could help a lot of people
Right.
knowing this information and
Right.
stigma. Because I have a friend who, when he found out he was HIV positive, his family still would be like not wanting to drink from the same cup as him. Things like those old stigma things you would see in the 80s.
Right. Right.
Shelby, the 80s was a decade long before you were born.
Dang, Aries, but
You were born after SpongeBob came out.
no,
You were born with a 2 in the front of your date. Some of us still have ones.
Yeah. 1900s,
That's still
baby.
oh
I'm a
my god,
that's
1900s baby.
that just is crazy to think about is how far we've come, but also how far we haven't come
Yeah, right, that we're still
in terms
condoning, like, yes,
of
you can drink after the someone who has
yeah,
HIV, like, please, calm
because
down, Diana.
I didn't know that PrEP was available starting around 2012. I
Right.
was like, it was
It's been
available then?
over a decade, right, that's my other talking point I've been bringing up to people who think they don't need it. I'm like, "Yes," but the fact that no one knows what it is a separate issue about whether, so even if you don't need it, you're still gonna have to sit at this table.
Mhm.
But definitely a point of, like, it's been here for over a decade, which means we should have made, like, a lot more headway. Just
Exactly.
speaking in numbers, we should have made so
Mhm.
much more headway, and we're still dealing with, like, a disproportionate amount of new cases, specifically concentrated in the South. And it's just like, we have to be talking about this, whether or not you think you're at risk. Like, it's no longer something that can be so sexualized. Like, come on. I know it's an STD, but
Do you think because it works differently for like biological females and biological males that maybe that's why because there's still some studying needing to be done about
well,
PrEP for females, or
yes. Well,
is it because we're not spreading the information fast enough?
it's a lot of everything. Definitely that less money and concentration goes towards any type of clinical studies for females, certainly under this administration. But also because, and I was actually talking to like a community member about this at a recent testing event. He was telling me that he thought PrEP was just for gay men. He's like, I've seen the commercials, like it's often gay male couples. He's like, I thought this was really just for gay people. And I was like, no, it's about sexual risk. But part of what happens is that funding and attention from like public health institutions and the government, all that, they want to hit the highest incidence, the highest prevalence, right? And that's consistently going to be men who have sex with other men for social reasons, cultural reasons, and also the biological factor of anal sex just being a higher rate of transmission risk, just objectively speaking. That also is true for women who would be having sex with someone who could expose them and have anal sex. Um, but to say that because the funding keeps going that way, women and children don't get put into the narrative.
Mhm.
And that's in a lot of ways that stigma is like kicking all of us. It's like, no, stigma isn't just like something that hurts gay people's feelings. It's something that takes away attention, money, resources, and funding to prevention for everybody. We consistently run into straight people who think PrEP is for gay people. There is nothing about being gay that is biologically present. There's no gay gene, there's no gay organs, there's no gay anything that makes you biologically gay. So it's kind of nonsensical to say this medicine is only for one sexuality of people, but a lot of
I
people
wonder,
say that and kind of go with it.
maybe it has a lot to do like the '80s was really hard on the gay community.
Yes.
So we
Yeah.
like finding out this medicine that can help prevent that probably was like a big like, oh wow, we don't have to lose any more
And as it should
people.
have been, right. Right. In my opinion, it was non-gay people's job to carry the torch for not like, you know what I mean? It was like historically speaking and currently, when it comes to public health situations and the queer community and gay folks, monkeypox did not make the impact it could have made. What was that? The year before last,
Yeah.
um,
Mhm.
because strictly because community members, queer, gay folks got together and did that prevention work, told everyone to go get tested, told people what to do. We're spreading those prevention cards. We're going to clubs. We're going to where gay people go and doing that work. And that was not because institutions threw a bunch of money at it. It was because of community members. So on one side, yeah, a lot of the work is also to credit us for saying like, oh, we got PrEP. Yes, run it. Make sure everyone knows. But then also that the way the funding and the attention works from the powers that be drive the attention for the public. So the public still sees that as like a gay problem, right? So
Well, and I'm sure when people find out I'm on, like, I'll tell people I'm married, I'm on PrEP.
mm-hmm.
They probably automatically go, "Oh, he's a whore." And I want to be
Or his
like,
husband.
it doesn't matter if I am a whore or not, because all it means is if me and my husband want to have a friend come over
mm-hmm.
and it gets a little fun, I'm protected.
I mean, for
See, I think
real.
that's where the straights are missing out. The gays know how to like Like, sex does not just have to mean, like, you're in love, you're passionately in love. Sometimes sex is just sex.
Yeah, and studies show a lot of straight couples stop having sex after a bit, and it kind of just, it literally just stops for like decades. You know, you hear about lesbian bed death, but I'm like, why aren't we talking about the straight bed death that happens immediately after
Mhm.
children?
Because
Like, so
I
to say
I will
that
make
that tracks.
I'll make this is probably mean to me, but I sometimes will be like, if I see a very unhappy straight couple, I'm like, well, yeah, if you would go and have sex more often, you
Or
might be a little happier.
go have sex with other people. Yeah,
Like,
just
release that
have
energy.
sexual
Release that
communication.
energy.
Yeah, sexual
Yes.
communication, it's not happening. Yeah, it's not happening for youth.
Mhm.
It's not happening for married couples. The first time so many people hear about it is at a tabling event, at a health community fair. Like, oh, I didn't know there was something like this. Like, yeah, I can tell you
I
about
always
dirty
get
sex.
you and I have been to some events where people are like, "Oh, I didn't know about prep," and it just blows my mind that the younger, like
Hmm.
people 10 years younger than us, don't
Right, like
know
you're all
about
supposed
it.
to have it. What do you mean?
Yeah. I'm like, wait, you're not on prep when you should be on prep,
Oh,
especially during college. Oh, if I would have had prep during college,
I would have. Like if I would have heard about it in 2012, because I was in my undergrad, I graduated in 2016. That would have been 4 good years of good HIV prevention because I was not preventing anything. I was not preventing anything. I didn't think
That's a
things were
little
going to
foot.
happen to me. I didn't think about consequences like all the time. I was like, I don't know, whatever. I'm out.
mhm,
What was, what's that? The millennial anthem. I knew my rent was going to be late about a week ago. I worked my butt off and I still can't pay it off. That is the millennial anthem. Like we
mhm.
still went to the club, pulled up to the club, gas tank absolutely on E. I was not thinking about whether the car was going to get me home or if I was going to contract a disease. And that's unfortunate. Like that's not, I don't think, I'm not proud of it. Like will not be advising
Well,
my daughter to do the same thing.
one of my favorite shows is a show called Two Broke Girls. And there was this one episode where Max is like, they were talking about STDs or something. She's like, sex, I'm poor. Sex is the one thing I can enjoy, because
Now that
she's
is a
broke. So,
sermon. That is a sermon.
I was just like, yeah, inflation's real high right now. Let's get you on some prep so you can at least have a little bit of fun.
That is really a good point. That's a good
All
point.
right.
It's the freest thing you can do. It's the easiest thing you can
It,
do.
mhm.
You don't need to even, you don't actually need to live nowhere to do it. Like you literally don't need shelter, food, or hydration.
Just make sure where you're at is not in viewing.
And barely that, barely that. Yeah, it's just
Well,
easy.
our last question is, what can we do to normalize these conversations in our communities and relationships? And in my opinion, I think it's just talk.
It's
Let's
it's
talk about it.
it's all about communication. What can we do to help these people, to help the community understand where we are coming from, what we are doing? We just don't want to jump off right at the back and like, oh, we doing this and doing this. No, we need to have an explanation why we are doing this and what we are doing.
I like to also put it in Amber. We talk when we go on prep
Hmm.
things. We tell people like I like to put prep in a perspective that a straight person might be able to understand. Prep is birth control.
So you
Like birth control
birth of
keeps you from getting
HIV
pregnant.
prevention.
PrEP is like birth control for HIV. It's going to help. It's going
Yeah.
not going to protect you against.
Right. And I think those are helpful terms because birth control is also not really indicated for lifetime use 100%. Even if you're
Mhm.
using it for non-pregnancy purposes like hormone management throughout your life, that will change. Like your hormones will change. You won't necessarily need to be on the pill one version your whole life. And likewise with prep, it's not indicated for lifetime use. It's something that you take to prevent while you're at risk. You're taking birth control if you're actively having sex and being at risk for pregnancy. So PrEP is the same thing. You are at the same time you're at risk for pregnancy, you are at risk for HIV. You got to put them in the same bubble. And so I think birth control is a great example because it goes back a little further. We've got more supporters for birth control. It's not apolitical. It's still very much a political topic, but I think more people accept birth control obviously than they did in like the 70s when they wanted, women to not do anything or go anywhere or have rights. So birth control kind of makes people think about it in terms that's a little less
Yeah.
politically charged, like, hey, don't even think about it too much. It's birth control. It's plan B, if we talk about PEP, like, don't think about it too much. You have a body. You're at risk
Mm.
if you're having sex, babe. And if you don't know these people, I be trying not to insult people's husbands, I swear. But I be wanting to say, like, I don't know that man. I just don't know that man. Okay. This is for you. You can do this, and he doesn't have to know you. Like, especially with Q Care, that's just you and your email. Like, you're not going to
Mhm.
see anybody in person. He's not on your insurance. Well, if there's an insurance issue, that'd be different. But that's not the case for a lot of folks. Like, the husband's not reviewing the insurance claims statement, maybe the bank statement and the
Mhm.
phone. But to say that this is really about individual, we have to be serious about domestic violence. I'm serious. We have
Yeah.
to. This is a safety measure because we also bring up how it's important important in terms of if you're at risk for sexual assault. So becoming incarcerated, getting right out of incarceration, unstable housing.
Mhm.
These are all risk factors for sexual assault. If you got to sleep outside, you're at risk for sexual assault, but that's a conversation that the funding doesn't. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
federal funding is not supportive of getting unhoused folks that kind of support, right? Because that requires adherence, and it's a whole issue. To say that
I've
we
never
gotta include
I've never
domestic
thought about the sexual assault aspect of it until
violence.
someone mentioned it. I was just like, "Oh, wow, yeah, you never know if you going out to a club,
Like,
like,
yeah, if you
you're
live
drinking easily or some kind of party where you
right.
might not know everybody,
And it's morbid. No one wants to
So
think about it, but, like, imagine the relief if something does happen, knowing that, like, HIV is not on the table.
Mhm.
The only thing that you're concerned about right now, obviously, is going to be lifetime trauma, but it's not HIV. It's not a communicable disease that is like a marker of that assault happening, you know?
Exactly.
So you
Mhm.
get to deal with what happened, but not have to be dealing with that diagnosis and how it can impact you and underlying health conditions and all that. So it really just serves a really good purpose, and it's unfortunate that homophobia is really putting a damper on on it because I feel like that's the biggest barrier. It's the question they've been asking since it came out, like, why can't we push PrEP further? And it's like, man, that homophobia is deep. It's systemic. It's cultural. Like, it knows no bounds. Everyone thinks this is a gay, 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 gay problem. And it is so hard to get them out of that. It takes multiple interactions. So like Shelby was saying, like, okay, maybe you don't want to talk about it, but you got to come back. Like, we got to try to retain you in engagement because that's the only thing that's going to kind of break the seal on some of that deeply set homophobia.
Well, I will run, ads for PrEP
Hmm.
'cause we're trying to get the word out there, and the homophobia I see
And I can't even,
on ads is crazy, and I
yeah,
you can't really respond to them or comment because
no, no,
this is a person behind a screen who,
yeah, or a
you're not
bot.
changing their mind.
Yeah,
So,
they're just doing whatever. Um, and I feel like that is especially more prevalent because obviously PrEP is not even in the conversation for non-men, so non-men and PrEP, period, whether it's women, trans folks, non-binary folks, that conversation is not really happening. So the kind of homophobia that PrEP gets treated with tends to be really specific to gay men. You know what I mean? Like, there's an association specifically with gay men.
like we would before a good time, it's time to wrap this conversation up. And I just want to thank you both for coming and talking about open conversations. This was really fun. I really enjoyed it.
Thank
And
you. Thank
if
you.
you're interested in getting prep, you can contact Amber or Shelby, and they will be able to help get you involved and make everything at ease. It's as easy as one, two, three, and four. That is literally how easy it is to get on prep. So, again, I want to thank you all for coming to this episode. I had a blast.
Yeah.
And do you have any final thoughts before we say goodbye?
Shelby.
Get on prep.
Get on prep.
Get on prep and
Yes.
ask me Amber by DoxyPip. We are here to help you all out.
Yes, I believe in measuring twice and cutting once. Don't waste your time. Don't waste your money. Don't be looking back talking about, I'm sorry, sorry, sorry. Just do it now. Just do it now.
I always tell people I'd rather ask in prevention than have to give that call like, hey, I tested positive for chlamydia. You might want to go get checked.
Right. That could be
Because
way
to me
more
that is
painful.
that is more awkward.
That's something I have to tell my 6-year-old when she doesn't want to like improve her circumstances. She'll be like, "Oh, I'm uncomfortable." And I'll be like, "Okay, here's your choice." And she'll be like, "Oh, well, I don't want that either." And so I'll be like, "Oh, well, you're gonna have to choose which thing is you're gonna be uncomfortable about then. If both are uncomfortable, you're gonna have to choose how uncomfortable you want to be." And she'll usually go with the second one because that kind of clicks for her, like, oh, she's not letting up. Like she's not gonna give me a third option. Like, no. Be uncomfortable now, be uncomfortable later.
All right, everyone, stay safe, stay sexy, and always remember to prep for the night. Bye, everyone. The Prep for the Night podcast is produced by Engaging Arkansas Communities to engage audiences in HIV prevention and education. Since HIV is contracted primarily through sex or by sharing needles, conversations on the podcast often address adult-themed topics which may not be appropriate for younger audiences. Views and opinions expressed in Prep for the Night, including any reference to specific commercial products, manufacturers, companies, or trademarks, does not constitute endorsement or recommendation by Engaging Arkansas Communities, the U.S. government, the Arkansas Department of Health, or the Center for Disease Control Prevention. This podcast is for informational purposes only and is not intended as a substitute for professional medical advice. Always consult with a licensed healthcare provider for guidance on sexual health and related topics.